Car racing is an odd sport. While the latest and greatest is what everyone strives for on track, there is always a longing for the cars and tracks of the past. IndyCar is no stranger to this nostalgia, so tonight we turn back the clocks as we get ready to watch the season premiere of Ultimate Conquest Online Racing's Throwback Indycar Series, presented by 9-4 Motorsports. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Christian Challoner. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Christian, we're pretty used to ending the season here at Homestead, but today we're kicking things off. Tell us a little bit about the track.
Yeah, a little bit different to what I'm used to here with the Indycars instead of the big tin tops on here, but mile and a half oval, one of my absolute favorites. 18 to 20 degrees of banking, and we're going to be doing 133 laps here tonight.
Should be fascinating to watch for these drivers, but a reminder that this series is brought to you by Midwest Simulations. You watch the track, we'll watch the rest. Use the promo code Throwback for $5 off of a set of their Spotlights visual spotting system. Find out more at midwestsim.com. As right now, looks like they are in qualifying. And the top qualifier championship is brought to you by D2 Race Designs. They specialize in creating personalized and customized sim racing peripherals, as well as providing the RC racing community items that make their days at the track more organized and efficient. The season's top qualifier will win a customized button box, all thanks to the kind folks at D2 Race Designs. So right now, the person who is at the top for that potential button box, at least after this first round, will be Christopher, who's got the provisional pole. And on track, we're lacking a few of the drivers because most have gone out quite early in this 15-minute session that has 2 laps to try and knock down. Christian?
Yeah, quite a long session, 15 minutes, especially for a two-lap qualifier. You've seen we've got 15 guys that have gone out already, still got 5 to go, so maybe someone can take that top spot closer to the end. We'll just have to take a look. But pretty tight at the top end. 6 drivers so far in 25.9.
Yeah, we've got 4 of them out on track that have yet to set a time, it seems. Eric Jaffer has just put his first in as we watch Paul Jenkins. Don't think that's the Paul Jenkins, but as he puts a time down, that's good enough for 8th place. And then the number 17 is about halfway up the field. Oh, as Jeffers takes the top spot. Meanwhile, I'm watching Gaston Arellano as he sets his first time next time by, it looks like. That was a warm-up lap. Oh, and Paul Jenkins now goes to the pole.
So looks like some of these drivers who've gone at it a little bit later have found a little bit more speed. Maybe the track might be just getting a touch cooler for them.
Now we've got Rick Ravon on screen. This is his second lap. It's a 25.941. That's going to be good enough for the second row. 4th place for him. First lap for Gaston is going to put him actually in 20th. Seems like they really need to get these cars wound up to get that good lap in. Let's see what the second one holds. I think he'll be the last one to be able to set a time here as he comes across. It's a 25.9. That will not put him on the pole, but it will take that 4th place away from Rick. And that should settle out our qualifying because Travis Bennett, who has only set 1 lap, is currently down on pit lane. So that should mean that our grid is set. That'll give us a little bit of time, though, to talk a little bit about how this race should go. Again, it is the Throwback Series. So this is the old Dallara. Well, they're all Dallaras, I guess, in the most recent ones that they're racing. The RR05 is round 1 out of 20, and it is 133 laps, as Christian mentioned. They have a fast repair that they can use in this series. So if they do find themselves running into trouble, they can use that. And it is a fixed setup. So drivers won't have to fiddle with that to try and find speed. It is all about getting out on track, finding the right line, and using strategy out there, both in the pits and with how you deal with the traffic. That fast repair, I have a feeling, Christian, probably going to come in handy for a number of people because with how fast they're running around here, they're not going to be small accidents.
Yeah, we see that with a lot of IndyCar racing on any kind of oval. Really, I was going to say excluding the short tracks, but even there you see big pileups, and I definitely think a mile and a half, if there's any kind of mistake, especially with a pack of 20 cars near the start of a run, it's going to collect a lot of people, and that faster apparel will keep those cars in the race, and that's good for us and good for everybody watching.
Yep, with those 133 laps too, you certainly don't want to use it too early. But this will certainly be an eye opener for a few drivers, getting used to one another. Of course, with the new season, trying to adjust to how all the others are dealing with the new faces on this track. And with it being such high speed, it's almost going to be a Daytona like situation where drivers could find it a little bit chaotic if someone isn't used to how things run. The spread on the field, interestingly, is only 2/10 between 20 cars. That also bodes well for the audience, Christian. That means it'll be pretty tightly packed.
Yeah, very, very tight for the top 10 as well. You had to run a 25.9 if you wanted to be in that group, and 25.920 for the pole, and then only 968 for 10th. So pretty much a half tenth separating the top 10. So extremely tight at the top end. And even going beyond that, through 11th down to 19th, it was only a spread of about a tenth and a half. So everybody very, very close here.
With the qualifying finish, they've now headed into the drivers' meeting. They're just going to give them a little chat, try and get them up to speed and tell them what's expected. So let's give us some time to look at the weather, which is actually kind of hot out there today, 92 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface. Is that going to affect the racing? It is progressive banking around here, Christian.
Yeah, I think 92 is a little bit average for this track, but it should at least mean that we see a bit of variation in terms of lines. We won't see everybody glued all the way to the bottom or perhaps the top. Interesting for me is that wind at 30 miles an hour to the north, especially with a car like this, which is so aero dependent, it's going to really play in, and we'll have to see if anybody struggles with that.
So the good news is, unlike the real car, since they don't have to actually sit in a physical cockpit, they don't have to deal with the uncomfortableness that this IR05 was kind of notorious for. I remember when the DW12 was released, the drivers commented on how much more comfortable it was to get themselves some leg room and get a seating position that they were happy with. And that newer chassis, which has since, of course, switched to the IR18, which is the same chassis, just a similar aero package, the same aero package among all the drivers out there. If I recall correctly, if my IndyCar history is right, this actually was the season opener for a number of years during the era of this car, hence why they started it instead of ending it. But it comes with its challenges, that pit entry and pit exit here, Christian. I know in NASCAR it tends to catch a few people out. I have to imagine the IndyCar is the same.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult to get down onto that access road. Not so much actually the initial phase of it, but because it's flat and you've got that grass strip, if you just go in slightly too hot, you'll end up with a scenario where your right sides will just about tag the grass. And from there on, you're just a passenger, and you can actually end up all the way back up on the racing surface and really be in the way, as well as get yourself a unsafe pit entrance. So it's definitely one of the more challenging pit roads. The exit is quite easy, but the entry is an area where there's a lot of time to be gained by getting it right, but there's also a lot to be lost by getting it wrong.
They're just now chatting with those drivers, as I mentioned. I can hear the stewards giving a little rundown of what's going to be happening. They do have a time limit on this race. It's about an hour 45 minutes. Hopefully we won't be hitting that, though. 133 laps. But they'll be running very quick times, of course, 25-second laps with how flat out it is around here. We should be able to knock that out quickly as long as we don't have too many cautions. Which brings up the question of that pit strategy here, Christian. It's usually we talk a lot about tires here on the NASCAR side. That usually wasn't as much of a talking point in the real world with the IR05, but it's been a long time since I've ran this car, so I'm not exactly sure if we'll see a lot of undercuts, if we'll see green flags. I feel like this is, especially for our drivers too, this might be new area that everybody is just going to have to kind of figure it out as they go.
Yeah, I think for us and the drivers, this is kind of a new experience for them. Obviously, the IR05 hasn't been raced in official series, so to speak, for a very long time. I personally don't have much experience with this car at all. I know with the newer cars, it seems to be a case of it's more about fuel and track position than it is necessarily about the tires. And I suspect it'll be a similar scenario here. So we might see a couple of plays for track position, but I don't suspect we'll see anybody running into tire problems.
Once again, while we've got some time, just a quick reminder about two of our sponsors here, both Midwest Simulations. If you didn't hear it before, they have a promo code that can save you $5. That is Throwback, once again, that you can enter in at midwestsim.com, and you save $5 on Spotlight's visual spotting system that they offer. And then, of course, we talked about D2 Race Designs offering a custom button box for the driver who gets the most poles over the course of the season. Big thank you to both of them for sponsoring this series. I think we got just about a minute and some change left here before we will start gridding up here for the Homestead race. The other odd thing about this track, too, is that it's gone through a lot of changes, I think, since the IR05 raced here, because for a while, I do know that it was actually an Indianapolis-style rectangle, believe it or not, Christian. I don't know if you were aware of that.
Yeah, I never raced on that track myself, but I do know that this track did have quite a strange configuration at one point in time where, as you say, it was kind of more like a rectangle and it wasn't particularly well liked. And then we got this new variant, which I think is extremely well liked. I think both real and virtual. I think it puts on great racing, and I know it's a lot of people's favorite.
Yeah, it seems like they made a good choice there, as it held the season finale for a lot of years for NASCAR. As let's see, looks like we got about 20 seconds left here, so we're going to be coming to that green flag here soon enough. Then we can get the season started with 20 cars out there racing. Some familiar names here for GSRC, as we're used to talking to Greg West. Actually, Greg had a short stint here doing a little bit of commentary on GSRC. Brian Beard, of course, Dan Guerin, all having raced on this channel before. So with the grid ready to go, let's go through your starting order. Up on the top, going to be Paul Jenkins with Eric Jeffers starting behind him. Chris Stouffer managed to put it in third, another driver that we've seen race here on the channel before. Gaston Arellano starting in fourth place with Rick Ravon in P5. Greg West will start in sixth, and Robert Bluen in seventh. Nate Burke in eighth, and then you've got Kieran Bergelli starting P9. Top 10 is rounded out by Brian Beard.
Then moving just outside the top 10, the first driver in the 26 is Dan Guerin with a 26.012. Then Ryan Corns alongside him in 12th, with Travis Bennett and Andy Yerk in 13th and 14th. Then we've got Brian Greenlee and Richard Swavely in 15th and 16th. Jeff Wubka in 17th, with Jose Miguel Phillips 18th. And then moving up to the last row of the grid, we've got John Garrett and Sean Fay in 19th and 20th.
See them all now gridding up down there. They'll have to take the pit exit. They will start on the pit lane. Shouldn't be too difficult, though, for them to follow that lane. And actually, they can come out onto the banking if they want, from what I've seen before here in warm-up laps. Just waiting on Rick Ravon to find his way out there. With the spare car, hopefully we'll see plenty of them see the checkered flag. But like we said, accidents will come at the drivers fast, and if they get that damage after they take their spare car, it could be a premature end to their night. Waiting for the Porsche pace car to take off. There he goes now. As we start off on the pace lap, let's take a look at our onboard sponsors as well. Gaston is one of those. He has the Mapu Barbershop on board for that car. You can see on the number 11. And also Garrett, he has the Johnny's Motors on board. So there's Gaston Arellano, and Garrett is running in the number 68, is a little bit farther down the field. There we see. So two great onboard sponsors that we've got. Johnny's Motors on board for John Garrett as well. Hopefully we'll get a chance to actually jump on board in race conditions for those two, which we're going to get very soon because the Porsche pace car is already in turns 3 and 4. Jenkins is going to have control of the field. So we wait for that pace car to give way. It's a very short time before they get the green flag, though. Off he goes. Green flag is out. It's a good jump for the number 17. Launches away from Eric Jeffers there in second place. Already Christopher looking to the inside as they come out down into turn 1. He's going to be able to take that second place. They've gapped fourth with Rick Ravon back there as well. A lot of side-by-side action from there on back.
Yeah, a couple of guys on the top line struggle to get away, but now it looks like everybody's trying to get it single file as quick as they can. See one car still struggling at the very top of the track there in 3 and 4, dropping back pretty quickly. You have to take a look at who that is.
Already a challenge for the lead with Stouffer getting a good run on Jenkins. He's going to duck to the inside. So we've got the number 7 now up at the point. Is this going to be swapping around a lot? Already Jeffers getting a nice little tow down the back stretch, but he is boxed in behind because up on the high side, that is still Jenkins in the orange and black number 17.
Yeah, and this is something we do tend to see a lot of, is swapping with the leader. The car behind, especially on new tires, gets a really big run, and there's not really any other option than to take it. And everybody kind of knows that with these cars, so it's pretty cool the first couple of laps of a run where we tend to see a bit of a revolving door for the lead.
Well, right now that revolving door has settled into Stouffer up at the front. Jenkins could have slotted down into Jeffers, but decided not to. Here comes Ravon. Rick down on the low side in the yellow Submarine is going to try and take third, as up to first once again. Jenkins ducking it down to the very bottom, but it looks like that shallower banking doesn't quite work out. Stouffer fends him off.
Yeah, Ravon made a really nice move there on the exit of 4. You see that lower strip of tarmac there. Not many people want to use that. There's not a lot of grip down there, but Ravon was able to dive down to it on the very exit of the corner, still get good drive off and take that third place.
Did he just hit the wall, though? I think Rick maybe scraped it a little bit. Didn't lose too much speed, but he's going to drift up to the high side. Jenkins still trying that low side for the lead as we hop on board the number 1 now. 200 plus miles an hour that these things are doing. And still down to that low side. Jenkins down through 3 and 4. Actually got a little bit of a nose ahead this time, but doesn't quite drift up enough. Does he try and block off Ravon? No, he does not. He still holds low.
It looks like if you're on the bottom in 3 and 4, you kind of have to have the kind of top side clear so that you can actually drift up. Otherwise, you have to lift, and that really kills your momentum, as we see Ravon now to the top for second.
He's going to try for it. Ooh, big run from behind. That was Jeffers there in the red, white, and black machine, but had nowhere to go with it. Still, like you said, that high line seems to be working best, and I think Jenkins needs to switch up his plan. Ravon, even though he falls back on the entry to the corner, coming off, you'll see it here again, just blows by him. Oh, it's almost wheel-to-wheel contact there between Jeffers and Jenkins.
Yeah, it just looks like being down there on the bottom for Jenkins is just slightly too tight, and he can't get the momentum off the corner that he needs. And obviously with everybody on the top line now, it's very difficult for him to get back in line.
Actually had a bobble that time down into 3. I think he touched the apron a little bit. That caused him to have to check up, so Bergelli is now going to be able to get into P4. He might actually even be overtaken by Greg West. Number 36 has a good opportunity if he can clear him, but he's not quite there. I have to wonder if there's that extra pressure once you become iRacing staff, knowing that the eyes are watching you, not just all the other drivers, knowing that you've got that special banner in the forums, but of course your overhead, your staff above you in the company.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult scenario for these guys because they know that any kind of mistake they make is going to be really scrutinized, so they have to keep an eye on what they're doing and try and be as clean as possible.
Jenkins trying to get that spot back. He's going to go below Bergelli. This is for 4th place. He likes that low line, but it doesn't like him. It still doesn't give him a spot.
Yeah, he's just really struggling to get the car turned on the exit, and it's meaning he's got no momentum, and then he's really vulnerable to an attack from behind, and he's not able to clear a car when he's going down there. As we see, he's now under threat again.
That's Nate Burke in the classic Tony Kanaan 7-Eleven scheme. But Burke is going to try and do the high line that Jenkins is not. Jenkins, though, started to pull away, and Greg West, who had lost that spot temporarily, we didn't see that before. Nate Burke had gotten by, might be able to get this back.
So Greg West actually just clipped that white line in 3 and 4 and had a little bit of a wiggle. It didn't look like it hurt him too much, but just shows you that there's a lot more risk going down there. There's not a lot of grip, and especially if you do catch that line, it's going to really unsettle the car.
Burke a little bit under threat, not just from West, but here's Dan Guerin, the 08, pulling a nice little slipstream, which is actually going to help him out here around the outside of Greg West. So push Dan Guerin up into P7 now. As we've been watching this, it's been close up at the front, but we haven't had the swapping around that we had at the start. Stouffer leads, Ravon's in second, and Jeffers is in third. They pull the gap back to the fourth place driver, Bruggelli.
Yeah, that top three is really broken away, and I just keeping an eye on it to see Ravon. He's having a look every now and again on Stouffer, especially into 3 and 4. He's just dipping a little bit lower, and every time it looks like he's getting closer to maybe trying to pull off a move.
Child of the 80s and 90s, I can't help but wonder if it's not coincidence that we have a man named Rick in that yellow submarine car, sporting the number 1 as well. So I suppose Rick Ravon knows what he's doing with that Pennzoil machine. As we come around, it's been green since we started, and we're getting ready to hit lap 15.
And I've got to say, I like seeing that car out there. It's a personal favorite of mine, so kind of a little bit of fanboy over Rick right now because I want to see that car at the front.
Yeah, I'm the same. I was a big Rick Mears fan growing up, so they swing it back into 3 and 4. This is very calm here, so why don't we jump back to where we get some action? I think they're just riding the laps out. I think let's go to 10th, where we've got Greenlee, another familiar face on here, is dealing with Andy Yerk behind him with a lot of pressure, though he is also trying to see if he can get up on Beard.
Yeah, it looks like the guys back here are now starting to figure it out a little bit more, and there's a couple that seem to be maybe having a bit of a bad start and drop back and now trying to work their way forwards. So a couple of drivers, Gaston's all the way back in 12th after starting 4th, so he'll definitely be looking to move his way up.
Yeah, let's watch from that onboard, that Mapu Barbershop onboard for the number 11. Because he's not only trying to chase this trio, he's also fending off Ryan Corns.
Yeah, he definitely not had the start of the race that he would have wanted.
Let's see if we can turn this camera around, this roll bar cam. Because that is Ryan Corns in the number 51 behind him. There we see, giving chase. And Corn's going to go for the low line, similar to what we saw with Jenkins, but similar results as well.
Yeah, it just looks like it's so difficult to make that low line work, and we see a lot of drivers keep trying it, but they're just losing so much momentum on corner exit that they're then vulnerable to an attack from behind, or if there is a gap, they're having to drop back so far that it's taking them a couple of laps to get back to making another attempt.
Oh, did we have a mistake from Jeffers? Jeffers has fallen way back off of Ravon. It's almost a second back and is being closed upon by Bruggelli and Jenkins.
We'll have to take a look at that, see if we can't get a replay, but obviously something must have happened because he's dropped way off that lead pair.
Not going to be able to get the replay. I'm checking myself. I'm not seeing anything drastic, to be honest. He just starts to drop over time. Looks like he's stabilized, though.
I was just about to say, I'm wondering if he's maybe having a look at fuel, or maybe he spotted something that the front two haven't.
We're going to watch Jeffers now from on board, just above. National Guard machine. Just behind him, we actually might have a change for position because Jenkins and Bruggelli went side by side once again, but Jenkins just keeps trying that low line to really ill effect.
Yeah, Jenkins is really attached to making that low line work, but as it stands, it's just not working right now, and he keeps trying it, and it's got to be frustrating for him because he keeps trying to make these passes, and he just can't quite pull them off.
And Dan Guerin, because of that botched attempt, is caught up to him. He's brought Greg West along with him. Right on board with Jenkins now, looking underneath a little bit on Bruggelli. He does manage to drift out, still doesn't carry his speed well. Is Garen going to try to get to the inside? Nope. He sees the high lines working, so he's going to stay up there. We might run out of track here. He is going to be able to sneak his nose in. Some give and take. Jenkins saw him coming. And starting on the pole, Paul Jenkins continues to slip backwards. This might put him in 6th place here if Garen can get by, and he does. Ooh, big dive from West there.
He's trying to make that bottom work, and he looks like he's going to make it happen. He does. Clears him off for 2.
This is fixed setup, so not really sure what's going on here with Jenkins, unless he burned the tires off trying to go low so much.
It's possible. You do crank a lot of wheeling having to do that, because obviously you're trying to pull the car down to the bottom of the track, and guys on the top line aren't having to do that, so it's possible that that is what's happened, but he's really paying the price for it now.
Brughelli had a look at Jeffers. You see it on screen, and here comes Garen as well, down to the inside. Brughelli manages to get the line. Can he do what Jenkins did not? He does, as wow, does Jeffers fall off quite a bit, almost 3 wide actually, as Garen and West tried to look at the inside. They go single file briefly down the front stretch, but ducking it down low. Garen finds a heap of speed on the entry into the corner, doesn't find it off of it. Greg West tries to follow him through, but it doesn't pay dividends.
Whilst this was happening, something's happened to Ravon. He's dropped all the way to last place. I'm not sure exactly what, but I just noticed he wasn't up in the lead.
I'm not seeing him having a connection issue quite yet, but we also didn't see any sort of caution. Keep an eye on my little screen down in the bottom right. There it is. He lost connection. What a horrible way to lose out.
Yeah, that's got to be really disappointing for him. Him and Stouffer are kind of broken away at the front. They've got this massive battle for what is now 2nd place, but at the time was 3rd. And obviously he was definitely in the fight for this race. And to get disconnected like that is just really unfortunate.
So Brughelli temporarily holds that 2nd place. Garen's trying to fight with Jeffers for 3rd. It's Garen on the high side that you see in the blue, red, and white. And then the black, red, and white is Jeffers, and gets back in line. Jenkins manages to get back into 5th. He's been holding off Greg West behind him. He's trying to carry that speed off of that high line that he's finally learning to use, and I think he might have something, but he once again picks the low side over Jeffers, which actually starts to work.
Yeah, and Garen was actually really lucky that last lap as well. He grabbed the wall in the middle of 1 and 2, and looked like rather than sucking him in, it actually bounced him off and gave him a great run down the backstretch.
And that we're seeing on screen is West and Jeffers are awful close. They also had Brian Beard start to come into them there, but thankfully nobody made any sort of contact. Wheel to wheel contact or wheel to wing contact, always what you don't want to do in these Indy cars. 30 laps in, still no caution, but no pit stops yet.
And this is great for Stouffer. He's out to almost a 3-second lead at this point, whilst there's this massive fight going on behind. This is exactly what he wants to see. It's just making his life really easy at the front.
Fantastic for the fans as well. This has been thrilling stuff. Jenkins still dealing with some drama himself because Jeffers, who's fallen back to 5th, has Greg West and himself seeing if they can re-overtake that orange and black car. Nothing doing out of turn 4 this time. The driver to watch out for, I think, is maybe Brian Beard. He's just kind of chilling out back there. We haven't really seen any moves. I don't think he lacks the pace. He just has decided he doesn't want to get involved.
Yeah, and he looks really good. He's got all the track available to him as well, so he's able to take a much nicer arc, especially through 1 and 2. And it just looks like he's not struggling with that tight that a lot of these drivers seem to be struggling with on corner exit.
Worth noting that the field has been spanning out as well, not just the gap between Stouffer and Brughelli from 1st to that 3-second gap back to 2nd, but it's a whole 9.5 seconds back to 18th, and then 10 seconds to our last driver, which is Jose Phillips.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of natural to see with a highly aero-dependent car. We do tend to see the field string out a little bit. Obviously, that's not quite happening at the front, so to speak. We've still got a pretty big fight here, but definitely throughout the field, it looks like some are struggling more than others and falling back because of that.
Yeah, Jenkins was struggling because he had a horrible exit. I don't know if the car got loose or what, but Jeffers got a huge run on him. Greg West also tried to see if he could make something happen, and now is when Brian Beards decides is the time to go. He gets it in on Greg West. Oh, they almost bang wheels going into the corner, though.
Yeah, I think West was expecting to run lower than he did, and it just kind of caught him out. But West, with a really aggressive move to the bottom in 3, got up on that apron and just really unsettled him and had no corner exit speed.
That is Brian Beard on the low side, and this side-by-side action is bringing in Nate Burke once again. Brian Greenlee starting to eye this up. He's certainly got an opportunity on his hands, and he does, because he's going to get under Nate Burke. There you can see the orange and white machine under the green and white 711 car is going to be able to move into the 8th position.
And that right there is a really good example of why when you're trying to pass a driver, you have to be very assertive with it and pull it off very, very quickly, because if you don't and you get trapped side by side, it plays everybody behind in. And if you then can't complete the pass, you're then stuck down there whilst another driver passes you on the top side.
You see now the side-by-side battle on screen is between Beard and West, and they almost made contact again. We haven't had a caution yet, but I get the sense that if we're going to see one, it's going to come from this portion of the field.
These guys getting very aggressive at this point, and just doesn't look like everybody's got quite the handling they did at the start of the run. And I keep taking a look at Jenkins. He seems committed to try and run lower than anybody else, but it just doesn't look like it's working for him. I feel bad for continually saying about it, but he looks like he's struggling one of the worst out of everybody trying to run the bottom.
Not really, well, I want to say not an observant driver, but we don't necessarily know what he's experiencing, so maybe he knows something we don't. So we continue to ride on board with Beard, giving chase on West. Now we've jumped off, and they go single file for the most part for much of this lead pack. Really the best battle now is between Burke and Corns. Boy, Corns has fallen off, because I want to say he was up fighting for a top 5 at one point.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of comers and goers in this race so far. Corns started 12th, and it looked like he made his way forward pretty quickly, but now back in the 10th spot. Another driver up a lot of spots is Brian Greenlee. He's in 8th from 15th.
Good climb there. So off of turn 4, Corns still got to stay single file. So does Burke on Greenlee. And I'm seeing that Jenkins trying the high side now, this time on Jeffers, and this actually might gift him 4th position. He gets a good run. If he gets another good one down the front stretch across the line, he could clear him.
Yeah, we see Jeffers is now stuck on that bottom, and now everybody's trying to file in behind Jenkins to sort of follow him past Jeffers.
At some point, the drivers will have to pit for fuel. We're already 42 in here as we go 3 wide. Greg West is going to get the shot down the middle. That's going to allow him to pass both Jeffers and Jenkins. Brave stuff from the iRacing staff member to get him a 4th spot.
Yeah, Jenkins got very, very tight on the exit of 2, had to really back out of it, and Greg West just saw the opportunity and shot straight through the gap in the middle, and he's now got a little bit of clean air, but Jenkins trying to get back by him on the bottom again.
Doing what he can to try and make that line work. Let's see if it's doing any better on older tires. As they come around, it actually doesn't look like it's too bad. It's just right here where you see West suddenly shoot back forward.
Yeah, it does gain you a lot, especially in the mid corner, because of it being obviously that shorter line, but you just struggle to carry speed off the corner, and we keep seeing this with drivers on the bottom. They look like they're really going to pull the move off, and they're very, very aggressive into 3, and it looks like it's really on. And then on corner exit, they just lose all the momentum they had, and then they're vulnerable from behind.
Oof, and Brian Beard with himself now moving up into 5th with Jenkins under threat from, I think that's Jeffers, up above him. So he's going to lose that one, and even more, because there goes Brian Greenlee as well, and down into pit lane. Oh, he wanted to be low. He's also got Ryan Corns coming in with him.
Yeah, and I think right there, Jenkins realized he was stuck on the bottom and looking at cutting the race into 3 equal segments here.
That's a good point. So what is that going to do? And did something happen to Brian Beard's connection as well? He's grayed out on mine, and I just see him dropping down the timing and scoring tower there. I hope we haven't lost a second driver. Also, Ravon did reconnect, although he does not appear to be out on track. Oh, and he has left since then, so we decided to call it a day. So Dan Guerin follows. Jeffers does as well. I see Andy Yerk now down. And like I see lots of drivers in.
Yeah, I think that really opened the floodgates on the stops. I think it was pretty expected we'd see him coming down either if at the third waypoint or the halfway point if they can make it that far. So kind of everybody on schedule at this point. Haven't seen anybody have any mistakes onto the access road.
Stouffer down and in. Sean Fay stays out though. And that is Jeff Wubker. Finds himself facing the wrong way. And he actually did go out. He did have trouble on the pit lane entry where he got into the grass. Yeah, there we see the tail end of it. And then wonder if it's because he had all the grass on the tires when he tried to get on the binders there?
Well, that pit entry itself is kind of strange. It's always difficult to get the car slowed down for the cone, especially coming off that corner. So looks like bias was just a little bit too far rearward when he stood on the pedal. And I feel bad once again because as soon as I said that I hadn't seen anybody make any mistakes, there we have it.
By the way, we did have another one, Sean Fay in the 24. Don't need a replay. He was the last one to pit, and he also missed his pit stall. He saw on screen just backed up a little bit. So as we come back to this battle, Brughelli in the thick of it with Greg West, and they're going to be joined down low. Who is that coming back in? That's Wubker. Lap down, though, because of his spin.
Yeah, I would imagine he had to change the front wing and probably also had an unsafe pit entry penalty as well.
Okay, so what kind of gains and what kind of losses did we have after those stops? Jenkins did really well. Maybe he was saving fuel. He came back in third.
Yeah, and another driver that did really well, Dan Guerin, he's up in a second with now a 2-second buffer back to third as well.
Oh, and it looks like Gaston Arellano has come in the pits, and I think, is this a second time for him? Or did he just run it long? This is his second stop, we're finding out. Ooh, not sure what's going on with him then.
I'm wondering if he's having to serve a speeding penalty.
Of course, this is our Mapu Barbershop on board. Not the way that he wanted to be able to show that sponsor. We haven't looked in on our other onboard yet, so why don't we check in on Garrett. John is currently sitting in 13th position. He's got probably one of the more calm races right now. He is about 5 seconds behind anybody and a second and a half ahead of Andy Yurt. This is your Johnny's Motors onboard.
Yeah, he's having quite a calm race, as you say, not quite in this battle up ahead that's really all the way from third place down to 12th. So he's having quite a nice race here.
Yeah, this battle is the one that we've been talking about that we need to keep our eyes on. Brughelli now has gotten third away from Jenkins. West is behind in fifth. Got Brian Greenlee there in P6 and Ryan Corns. So this is essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars all together.
Yeah, this really couldn't have worked out any better for Guerin because he's managed to detach himself from this group and get out ahead, and now he's got clean air and he can focus on seeing if he can run down Stouffer whilst everybody in this group continues to fight.
And that's Arellano, who we see a lap down, trying to stay out of the way, but just getting swamped by cars. Thankfully, no dramas came out of it. A little bit of a drop off from Ryan Corns behind them. He's got to hustle so that he doesn't lose that slipstream.
Yeah, but he is one of the drivers who made quite a gain in the pit stop cycle. He was at the very tail end of this fight, and now he's pretty much up in it as well. And like you say, if he can hang on to the slipstream, he's going to be in this running for third place.
Around to complete lap 55. Still being led by Chris Stouffer ahead of all this. We don't need to show him, but an update for our audience. 3 seconds from himself to Dan Guerin. I think Guerin gained a bit on him, though, because I want to say it was up to 5 seconds before the pit stops.
Yeah, Guerin was definitely one of the biggest gainers in the pit stop cycle. I do think he did gain about 2 seconds. We'll have to take a look at the pit stop time, see if we can't figure that out. But he definitely got something right in that cycle and got himself out into that second spot in clean air.
Yeah, I'm not seeing much drastic between the two of them in terms of timing on my timing and scoring. Could have been maybe the pit entry or pit exit that made the difference for them. We've been staying on this battle for third. Brughelli, having climbed from 9th on the grid, now looking at a podium if he can hold a lot of fast cars behind him.
You see they're not looking content to sit behind Paul Jenkins.
Yeah, 2 of them looking low. Jenkins as well looking low. But Paul not able to really do anything with it. Greg West with a head of steam is going to try that low line. No, he's not. He's going to get back behind Paul Jenkins. Oh, boy, they're getting close on the exit of 2.
And see, this is the thing. You kind of get tricked into trying to make a pass because West didn't pull out in 1 and 2. Instead, elected to sit behind Jenkins on the top line, but that meant that Greenlee immediately had to run down the backstretch and was looking to make a pass on Greg West into 3.
Certainly is some chess being played out here by the drivers trying to position themselves, and I think Greg West has managed to get his rook in a good position because here he goes down the inside with a whole lot of speed on Paul Jenkins, almost clears him down into 3. If he can get the shot off the corner, he's not going to be able to, unfortunately. He is going to be able to get in line, and he interrupts the momentum of Greenlee before he can get a shot at things.
Yeah, just about able to slot into that gap ahead of Greenlee, but now Greenlee with a run on West down into 3.
Ooh, and West wasn't sure if he should duck down low or not. He couldn't see if Greenlee had the steam that he would trip each other up. We're still yet to get that stop, or that caution flag, and we are just about at halfway, just a couple more laps. A little bit of love for Chris Stouffer in the number 7. The leader does need some screen time. Here you can see from on board, there's just a whole lot of nothing up there.
Yeah, and it's kind of a strange scenario when you've got this kind of a lead because obviously you're happy that you're so far out front. He's under threat from nobody right now, but at the same time, hasn't had anything going on around him since the very early stages of the race. So executing his strategy to plan is really all he can do and just maintain that lead.
By the way, we did lose Brian Beard. He had a disconnect in his internet. Another unfortunate incident. So Beard did get back out on track, though. He is running, but he is the last car running right now. And we may have also had it with Brian Greenlee because he grayed out on my screen and he's been gone for a while.
I'm not sure what's happening tonight, but obviously really unfortunate we've had 2 drivers be disconnected from the server, potentially a third now, so not sure what's happening with that, but obviously disappointed for the drivers involved with that.
Whoa, whoa, we had a car in the wall, and it's going to be our first caution. It's Eric Jeffers. Jeffers smacks the wall. He's down, stuck on the grass. Is it going to be a caution? We're staying green. He's off the racing line. Oh, he just needs to take a tow here. If he tries to run it all the way around, we surely will have a caution. Here's what caused it, though. Around 3 and 4, I don't know why he was riding so high. Oh, some netcode happening there, and then he had some contact. Who's that in the blue car? Not sure who that was, but it was decent contact. Jeffers trying to run it around. He's been staying off the racing line, but at this point, I feel like he might as well just take the tow because he is not helping his case. Back that battle for third. It is now Brughelli up there. Greenlee did lose the connection I'm now seeing. I was going to say I blame it on the fact that they're running the IR05. This is early 2000s technology, so I guess the internet wasn't as good.
Definitely looked that way, but unfortunate for those three drivers. And then again, a little bit of a weird incident there. Really disappointed for Jeffers, obviously running inside the top 10, top 5 majority of the race, and now no chance of that.
Saw Greg West there on screen. Take a little bit of a look on Paul Jenkins. Excuse me. And that is a lapped car that is in amongst them, that black and white number 11, that is Ariano. So he is not for position. Horns is, though. He wants to get up to West and Jenkins. We're right on board with Greg now. Greg, of course, did some luge competition at almost the Olympic level. More interesting claims to fame among drivers on iRacing.
He's got a really good run this time into 3. Jenkins ran the top side, and West was able to hold it down on the bottom and is now level with him going into turn 3.
But he's still on that bottom line as they come through the corner. Jenkins also having some connection issues as he disappeared for a big moment there on my screen.
Yeah, and looked like West kind of anticipated that because he stuck himself to the bottom until Jenkins reappeared on the outside.
Pardon me, it is the skeleton, not the luge. It's the head-first version of the luge. Meanwhile, side by side back there is Corns is trying to get by a very wobbly Ariano. Gaston, I'm not sure why he's fighting Corns. He's a lap down. And with Corns wanting to get back to these two, he can't be happy with Gaston here.
Yeah, and Gaston now getting involved in this battle with West and Jenkins as well.
Apparently no one holds up cars like Gaston, and now he's going to get out of the way. So number 11 going to take away my opportunity for more Disney jokes here, as he's going to allow the better line up to the 51.
West with another attempt into 3.
Yeah, he's trying what Jenkins was trying for so long. Yes, he is. Now, can he scamper away? That's the big question. Here comes Corns. Oh, but no, he decides he doesn't want to try the low line. He's going to wait patiently.
Corns is now going to have that run into 3. Jenkins struggling a little bit behind West now. But can Corns pull off the same move?
It took a number of laps for Greg to make it stick. Oh, and I don't think that low line agrees with Corns. He almost got ran into by Ariano. Had to check up big time to keep from plowing into that gearbox.
And West now managing to extend that gap, though. Jenkins looking like he's struggling with the car being tied off at 2. Big run for Ryan looking to the inside. This is going to be his best chance into 3.
He's just about clear, but not quite. Jenkins carries the speed and is saving grace once again as that progressive banking. Falls back. So let's see, do we get another wash up the track for Jenkins this time? No, he handles it better through 1 and 2 this lap around.
And I think that's really going to be one of Ryan's best chances, but Jenkins really high on the exit of 4 this time.
I don't think this is over. Ryan could yet still do something as we ride on board with Paul looking back over his shoulder. Down to the inside. Ooh, a fantastic run, and on the low line.
He's clear.
Corns could have it. He is clear indeed. So move Ryan Corns up to 5th position. A driver who started in 12th, but he's not going to drift up. He could have maybe if he wanted to. This is going to carry that battle on.
Yeah, I think he's going to regret not drifting up there. He was definitely clear, and he should have taken the top in the 3 and 4. I don't think Jenkins was going to be able to repass him.
There's a big bobble there from Aranio. Tried not to get into the back of Jenkins. These two continuing on. Corns had it briefly, but it's just not meant to be. So let's see, it was what, about lap 45 I saw people come in last time?
Yeah, so I expect we'll see people stopping around about lap 90.
So we got about 10 more laps to go before the drivers come in. As, oh my goodness, Gaston gets so close to the back of Corns every time, and then he starts to get loose off the corner multiple times now. This is looking like a recipe for a disaster. Let's watch the hands here. On top of the roll bar. Oh, he doesn't even look steady on the way in there.
Yeah, I think he might have actually just grazed the wall on corner entry. I'm not sure.
Well, that's finally pulled him away from Corns, which I'm sure he is sighing in relief about. But he still has to get by Jenkins, who is solidly ahead of him. While they've been fighting like this, Greg West has taken advantage of the squabbling. He's pulled away. You see the gap is about half a second now. He set his sights up to Brugelli, but he's got a ways to go. It's about 8/10 to get up to Kieran.
And not sure he's going to be able to run him down this run. About a 10th a lap slower last time by.
Let's check in on Burke, though. This is with Robert Bluen, and this is for 7th position. What interesting to note, a little more odd stats right now. Bluen and Burke are one of the few that are in the exact same position they started this race in.
I think they're the only two that are in the exact same position, actually.
Yeah. So let's see if they can change that around and make it so that nobody is where they started. Burke's trying for it. He's hovering around the gearbox of that number 96. They also might be joined by Travis Bennett. That's the car you see in the background, the red and white machine that's just kind of stalking them and lurking around.
Bennett's been slowly closing this gap down, and the more that this pair fight, the more it's going to bring Bennett into it.
Yeah, and that fight is heating up because that's a look to the inside there from Nate Burke. Slows them both up a little bit. 28 slots back into line. A little bit of a move from Corns on Jenkins. He had gotten to his inside, but you can see it's the same results as he falls back. I almost wonder if you're the car behind, is it worth trying to do that undercut? Maybe dive into the pits and see if that'll get you the track position you need?
Yeah, it's definitely something that you want to consider. And it does look like the lap times have dropped off a little bit. Not a great deal, but for example, Stouffer's best lap is a 25.8 and his last lap was a 26.0. So there is a little bit of time difference there. I think if you're in a scenario where you've been stuck behind a driver for this long, you've got to look at maybe pitting early, but it does look like Corns might have it past here.
So Sean Fay going to be overtaken by West. And actually, that's Fay in a fight with Phillips. So Phillips loses 13th place to the number 24. Still, you can see as we watch from above, Corns has not finished the pass on Jenkins. They've been riding side by side for a while now.
And it's so close. Every single time going into 3, it looks like Corns has got enough to clear him, but Jenkins then just comes back on exit, but Corns has definitely got this now. Jenkins was so tight coming off of 2.
Washed up big time. Wonder if that traffic in front finally sealed the deal. Maybe Corns can use it to his advantage if he could put some distance between himself and Jenkins so that he doesn't get that spot right back. But that's a battle for position directly in front of him. Once again, that is Phillips and Fay. They're trying to sort out 13th, and they're going to go 3 wide all the way down to the bottom for Ryan Corns with a brave move that actually does put a car between himself and the now pitting Jenkins.
And Jenkins just 1 lap early there on 89 from what we expected, and I think This is going to drive the strategy for the rest of the field as well.
Jenkins clean in, I can report. Bennett's going to follow from that lead lap. Also, Jeff Wubker, who is a lap down from his spin last time in. Also, Richard Swavely, also taking a stop. I believe Richard was the one that made contact with, was it Greenlee that wrecked? No, who was that wound up trying to come in?
It was Jeffers who had the big damage.
Yeah,
He's currently 6 laps down in 18th.
He did get his spare car and he's back out. Swavely done with his stop, so is Wubker. Bennett all returning to the track. Jenkins comes back out in 12th, a lap down, so he's in the danger zone if we get a caution here. One more taker on the way in. It's Robert Bluen. Nobody else? Wow. Everybody else content to just ride.
It looks like Stouffer's staying out for a really long time here, and I suppose with his scenario, why wouldn't you? The only risk that you've got is pitting before everybody else, and then a caution coming out. You've got a 4-second lead. You might as well wait for everybody else to pit and then come down.
Robert Bluen hits his stall. No dramas on his entry. Looks like he's going to get caught by Jenkins, of course, since he was ahead before the stops. Bluen going once again, but momentum in the favor of the 17. He easily swings by. Yerk pits. Garrett pits. Ooh, Dan Guerin from second place. Oh, and Guerin is into the wall on pit entry. Can we get a replay on the number 08? Here we go. He was so smooth on the way in. By the time he hit the cones, it looks like he had a little bit of overconfidence.
Yeah, really good entry, and then, like we saw earlier, it looks like the brake bias is really far rearward and just loops the car around as he gets to the cone.
All right, our leader is in. So is Corns. Brughelli in. Burke is in. Boy, that is going to hurt Guerin. Looks like he didn't tap the wall too hard, and I don't think he got any damage from it. And Corns goes by his pit stall. Where is it, Ryan? There, he finally finds it.
Corn's having a nightmare there. He's doing a lot of shuffling around to get that car in the box correctly, and that's going to drop him well out of that fight for the top 5.
Yeah, so many of our front runners are making silly mistakes that Stouffer's loving. This is going to increase Stouffer's gap by immeasurably. I will have to wait and see when everybody comes out. We're waiting for Phillips to pit, which he finally does. Fay is the last one who needs to come in.
Gaston's actually looped it on pit entry as well. He's had to take a tow.
There goes Fay. So Stouffer now retakes the lead. Is Gary actually still back out in second despite that spin? I think he is. How did he have that big of a gap over Brughelli?
I think he did, and I think he got really lucky that when he actually had that moment happen, it was kind of past all the fast section of the pit entry, and he didn't completely spin the car around. He was able to kind of nudge it off that pit wall and get it back straight. So he didn't lose out near as much as he possibly could have done.
So Brughelli, after that pit stop, unfortunately did not have a good time because Greg West gained a ton. It is now 1/10 of a second, and West is eyeing a podium finish.
West, one of the drivers to not make any mistakes so far this race, executed his pit strategy perfectly, and now in the fight for a 3rd place.
And look at how much Brughelli is weaving. He's trying to cover him off here. It's the first time we've really seen a car trying to place themselves to interrupt the car behind. Oh, wow. Once again, just a late switch.
A very aggressive defense of this position here by Brughelli, but it's the only fight he's going to have for the rest of the race if it stays green, so he has to fight for it.
Bad news for fans of Gaston Ariano. One of our onboard cars has DNF'd, the number 11 is out of the race. That leaves us with 17 still remaining.
Just taking a look through the lane times for the pit stop cycle, Christopher with a 32.8, one of the fastest drivers, and then Greg West in fourth with 33.0. Dan Guerin and Brigelli both lost a lot of time. Guerin's pit lane time was 38.6, so lost nearly 6 seconds to Stouffer, and Brigelli was 34.2, so 1.2 seconds slower than West, and that's how West got up to him.
We're going to watch from Greg's perspective here, looking over his shoulder. This is one of our best battles on the track, if not the best battle on the track, as he almost clips the rear of Kieran.
Getting very, very tight here, and looks like everybody's leaving each other a little bit less margin as we get down towards the end of the race.
Maybe 30 laps to go pretty soon, and we have yet to have a caution. We have not been without accidents, most of them on pit lane, but the biggest one being Eric Jeffers, who unfortunately hit the wall, as well as another car. I've already lost my notes on who exactly that was. I think it was Swavely. But the number 4 still running 4 laps down. Interesting to note, he's actually on the same lap as Brian Beard, though almost half a lap behind. So
and another one of our
on screen. Sorry, go ahead.
Another one of our drivers that had some pit road drama, Ryan Corns. It looked like he had to come down and serve a penalty as well, because he's now 3 laps down, and he had to come in for a second time on the pit cycle.
Dab that he had a speeding penalty from that poor entry. We now watch from Guerin's perspective, or Garrett's, rather. My ears are getting too old, apparently, not hearing my director correctly.
And Garrett actually a driver who's done a really good job through the pit cycles as well. We were talking about him having a really quiet race earlier on, and now he's up in the 10th spot and in a battle for 9th.
Yeah, this is the Johnny's Motors onboard that we were seeing on the underside of Swavely, but Richard's going to hold them off. They're also just behind Corns, who is a lap down, so that's not for position. But again, we've seen drivers use the lapped cars as a bit of a pick before. Maybe this is what Garrett needs. Keeping half an eye here, and I'm also keeping half an eye on third. Let's go to Lewin and Bennett for 6-2. They've got a battle here behind them as well as their own. Sean Fay and Jeff Wubker fighting for position behind them, so they don't want to get involved in that. Who's down that? Oh, that's Jeffers off cycle because of his wreck. Boy, we cannot stay on anybody long enough because the battles keep getting hot around here. Greg West is now taking our attention away, looking to try and get onto that 3rd spot.
We got a lot of 2-car battles going on out here right now, and West keeps looking to try and get to the outside of Brigelli, but Brigelli's smart enough to keep covering it off every time West goes up there.
Yeah, it seems like we're seeing the drivers who've really been paying attention and have kind of figured out how to use the better line to their advantage. Worth noting as well, the track temperature's gone down by quite a bit since the start of the race. It's already almost 6 p.m. virtual standard time, and it's 85 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface.
This is adding a little bit more grip, making the track a little bit more racy as we see West trying the bottom now, and no threat from behind, so no risk in trying this, but as we see, it's not easy to do, and we haven't seen many people successfully pull off the pass on the bottom.
You say no threat from behind, but we saw on that long shot, Paul Jenkins is still less than a second back. So, yes, he's not threatening right now, but Greg West can't waste too much time. You always talk about having to make those decisive moves. Greg's really got to try and make something snappy happen.
Yeah, but this is definitely the time for experimentation. He doesn't have a car right up on his wing, so he can afford to drop back a little bit. But as you say, he can't afford to stay here for too long, and especially not if he drops back so far that he pulls Jenkins up into this fight as well.
Continue to watch this battle. This is for 3rd place. This is the season opener Of course, for the Throwback Indycar Series for Ultimate Conquest Online Racing, presented by 9-4 Motorsports. On board now with Kieran Brugelli, looking back at Greg West over his rear wing, under his rear wing, really. One thing I always love about open wheel cars is just the way you can watch that suspension work here in these onboards. West is keeping him honest. He is making sure that the pressure stays on. If there's any sort of slip up from Brugelli, he's going to take advantage. Unfortunately for Greg, though, pit stops are done, and it doesn't seem like really fuel has been an issue for anybody, so he's got to do it on track if he wants this spot.
There's no more strategy to it. It's all about just trying to get the position with a pass, and looks like West sat behind for a couple of laps now, just maybe having to think about how he can either force a mistake or just, as we like to call it, just put Brugelli to sleep, so he expects that there's going to be no more attempts, and then suddenly out of nowhere just throw it down the inside and try and pull a pass with a big slider. But difficult to do in these cars, especially with how much you're on throttle.
I like that. I'll have to remember that one. Put someone to sleep. Now on lap 114. We are less than 20 to go. They have not caught up with Dan Guerin, by the way. Dan, for all the time that he lost, is stretching away once again from the number 98. So he's also not under threat, but unfortunately he's not catching up to Stouffer either, who has gapped him to about 8.5 seconds.
And Guerin's done a really good job, actually. That minor mistake on pit road aside, to get himself to the front of that group that was fighting for third place at the time, just far enough to be out of their range. As we see West now with a bit of a move, he's going to be level with Brugelli into 3, maybe. Nope, not quite. Just can't get the run off of 2.
I mean, I would want to blame it on the downforce on the car, but the downforce is exactly the same between them. So can you adjust the weight jacker in the fixed setup? I'm kind of curious about that.
I don't believe you can. I think the only things that you can change is the brake bias.
Yeah, we got a confirmation. You cannot change the weight jacker. So really no difference between them. John Garrett, as we get one more of that Johnny's Motors on board, is trying to do something on Swavely, but still not successful. 68 has had the same problems we've seen as Greg West. Starts to make me wonder if this is a bit of the track and not the cars, that it's now that they've rubbered it in a little bit, it just doesn't giving anybody a way to get by.
Yeah, it just looks like it's really difficult to get any passes going on, and just having a look at this battle for 6th between Bennett and Bluen, and they've got a couple of lap cars in amongst it as well, making it really, really difficult to work it out.
Yeah, that was Wubker and Phillips I mentioned earlier, still fighting for 12th. Oh, down to the inside, though. Bluen has got a great shot, and he's actually fully passed. Is he going to try and cut him off? Does Bennett maybe try to swing under for the over-under? No, he doesn't. But Wubker now has to make a decision. Does he try to overtake a car who's a lap ahead to keep Phillips behind? He doesn't need to. Phillips doesn't quite get the opportunity, but boy, was it close.
Yeah, and a great move there on the bottom to be clear on the exit too, and just cut straight up the track in front of Bennett, exactly as you have to do with these cars. But Bennett making a little bit of a fight back. He's going to have a look in a 3 here.
He does get a nose inside, but the car starts to stall out now that they head down the back stretch. Another dive down into turn 3, fully getting alongside and a nose ahead even before it swings back in favor of that number 96. So Bluen holds on to P6. Oh, and do we have a pass between Swavely and Garrett? We did. Garrett managed to get by. Let's take a look at the replay. You know what? This was the over-under for the 68.
See Garrett running the top, but looks like Swavely just drifted up, and Garrett got a big run off of 4 there. Not many drivers been able to do that, and then was clear in a 1.
Smooth stuff. Making for a beautiful pass to give John Garrett P9, but he's not out of it because Swavely's right underneath that rear wing.
Got really, really loose right there. He cut all the way down to the bottom in 3 and 4, grabbed the white line with the left sides.
Let's stay with this. Oh, never mind. Looks like we're going to have to go to Bluen because Bennett took a look to the inside. He's going to take another look to the inside. He tries to send it in deep. Wasn't cut off. Just behind them, Phillips is going to get back by Wubker as well. And he's going to try to get to the inside. Probably a little bit to the ire of Bennett. Because now he's going to get involved in this battle as he actually overtakes the car that's a lap ahead. Bennett swings back under him, says, please stay out of the way. We're trying to sort this out for what is 6th place.
Yeah, and this is frustrating for everybody involved here because, and rightly so, the cars a lap down are fighting each other because it's for position and they can't afford to be kind of just sitting behind the lead lap cars. But at the same time, you've got the lead lap cars going, hey, you're a lap down, stop getting in our fight.
Oh, and he almost gets into him as they go 3 wide. Up on the high side, that was Bennett almost being run into by Phillips. Oh, and he drifts up. A little bit of contact. They both come out the other side, thankfully. But, oh, man, Bennett is losing a lot of time now on Bluen.
Yeah, Bennett's going to be furious about this, but really he can't be. There is a genuine fight for position between these 2 lapped cars.
Good thing iRacing did not add the moving arms yet to the driver's model, because I think we'd be seeing it move a little bit here as once again they're going to swap around. The good news is, though, is that Phillips is actually well, where did he go?
I believe he came down pit road, but that...
Yeah, what could pit? Well, that solves the situation. Now, at this point, Phillips, well, I hope he gets out of the way because he has no reason to fight him. Yeah, there we see Wubker on pit lane coming back out.
I'm just not sure why we've got drivers pitting, though, because everybody was able to do at least 45 laps on fuel, so it's really surprising that we've got drivers pitting 5-6 laps from the end. Oh, sure. There's contact in 4.
Oh. And a caution, and it's Bennett. Oh no! Don't tell me this is with the lapped car.
It was. They were side by side, and it looked like Bennett just got clipped on his left rear, hooked him around, sent him backwards into the wall.
Let's look at the replay. If we want a good onboard, boy, Nate Burke narrowly avoided that. This is the incident. Should be, yeah. Wow. Oh, man, they were diving around. Bennett has got to be furious even by this point. Does get to the inside, and there's the contact. Both
those 2 drivers
managed to sneak underneath, and I mentioned Burke in the 28. There you see him go. Sorry, go ahead, Christian.
I was just going to say those 2 drivers really, really unhappy with each other as we saw before that, and obviously just all came to a head there. See, Burke can just about see it going on up ahead, and when you see that, there's the worst thing you can see because you're fully committed to your corner, and there's no real way of actually getting around it. You just got to hope that they don't drift into where you are.
So they've already been picked up by the pace car. Again, we shouldn't expect any stops. At least I don't think we'll see anybody in to take tires, and certainly don't need it for fuel. And wait, is this correct? Are we down to 3 to go? Oh, wow. So the laps got away from me there. I didn't realize we were this close to the end. So are we going to get restarted even?
I believe we will, but this is a near worst case scenario for Stouffer and Guerin. They were both quite comfortably first and second, and now everybody in that lead pack. We've got 9 cars on the lead lap right now. They're all going to be back in this fight.
This will get interesting. Will we see Garin be able to do anything on Stouffer? What about Brugeli and West? They've been fighting a lot. Can they put it aside to maybe try and go on the attack on the top two, get the top step of the podium? See, we got one car coming in pit lane. That's Brian Beard. I think he's just trying to get out of the way of the leaders. Yep, I think he's just coming down pit lane to put himself at the back of the train. We are actually down to 9 cars on the lead lap, by the way. It's been green for that long that of our 20 starters and 17 still running, that very few are running on the same lap as that number 7.
And Stouffer was so far out ahead as well, nearly out to a 10-second lead. So he was just carving through him, and he was having such a good run out there on his own, just executed his strategy perfectly and was just picking cars off and lapping them one by one, and that's how we've ended up with just 9 on the lead lap at this point.
I think this race is over. We're at 2 to go, and the lights are on the pace car. So they had to have gone off that time by. And obviously, even though this is oval racing, we shouldn't have a green-white checkers in this series. So this is actually the end. Chris Stouffer may have already won this race. Wait and see what happens as we come by here. Even if those lights go off and they get a restart, I don't think they'll be able to change positions. As they come down across the line. And indeed, lights stay on. So white flag is out. That means that Stouffer will be your winner. Garin will manage to get a second place. That, boy, what a relief has this got to be for Dan Garin, though, or at least not this caution necessarily, Christian, but the fact that with a spin into pit lane, he still managed to salvage a podium.
Oh, absolutely. And like I was saying, he executed the strategy really, really well, except for that one moment. And because of the gap that he'd built, it wasn't actually a critical moment for him. He still came out with a clear gap in that second position, obviously unable to take the fight to Stouffer, but he's got to be happy with that. Started 11th, he's going to finish second.
What a disappointment for Eric Jeffers, who started in second on the front row. Going to wind up in 17th, one of the few drivers to actually find damage from this race. And then our pole sitter, who has points towards that the championship, the top qualifier, excuse me if I could speak, top qualifier championship, Jenkins wound up in 5th. But it is Chris Stouffer who really just spanked the field today in the season opener here at Homestead. Victory for the number 7 in Florida. We are going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results. Stick around, though, because on screen we'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. back to Homestead-Miami Speedway. The season opener for the Throwback Indycar Series, presented by 9-4 Motorsports, was won by Chris Stouffer. And the stats will show that he won it by 2 seconds, but really that does not tell the whole story because it finished under caution despite going green all the way until that single caution. And he led by a monster gap. And of course, this is the Rogue Energy post-race show. Rogue Energy drink is designed to replace unhealthy canned energy drinks, coffee, and even traditional pre-workouts. Rogue Energy is sugar-free and loaded with vitamins, antioxidants, and nootropics. Scoop, shake, drink, win. Use promo code UCORAINDY to get 10% off of your purchases at rogueenergy.com. And there you see up at the top, Chris Stouffer with Dan Guerin finishing in second. Kieran Brughelli managing to get the podium over Greg West. It was a toss-up between them after that last pit stop. Paul Jenkins took fifth, even though he was on the pole. He struggled all night and just mysteriously didn't like that line that everybody else did. Robert Bluen was sixth with Nate Burke in seventh. Then you've got John Garrett, who wound up in that accident that caused that caution in eighth. He certainly seemed pretty steamed. It was Richard Swavely who finished ninth behind him, last car in the lead lap with Andy Yerk in 10th.
And then moving on to 11th place, Travis Bennett. We saw him in that incident as well. I think he's going to be pretty upset with that. Ran inside the top 10 most of the night there. Coming up 12th, we had Jose Miguel Phillips. And then Sean Fay with a quiet race to 13th, with Jeff Webker, one of our first drivers, multiple laps down, 3 laps down, in 14th place. Ryan Corns, another driver with some pit road mishaps, comes home unfortunately 15th for him, with Brian Beard in 16th. Eric Jeffers, one of the drivers who had one of the biggest moments of the evening, that big wreck off of turn 4, unfortunately took him a long time to get back and get his new car, comes home in 17th. And then the 3 drivers that disconnected from the race, we had Gaston Aureliano in 18th, Brian Greenlee in 19th, and Rick Ravon in 20th.
And the first driver that we're going to be talking to in this Rogue Energy post-race show is, of course, our winner, Chris Stouffer, who has joined us. Chris, you started in third, and you were definitely up there among them at the start. But once you got to the front, it looked like you had command of this race. Did it ever felt like it was going to get away from you?
Well, first I got to say I feel bad for Rick Ravon because he was right there on me at the start of the race and through that first half until he had that disconnect. And yeah, I think he for sure had something for me. Then mid race when we had the first pit stop cycle, I saw Dan gained about 2 seconds on the pit stop. And so, yeah, I was a little worried at that point too. Just didn't want to throw it away and screw up and have Dan run me down mid race. So it's kind of speechless. I did not think I was going to run away with it like this, but I'll certainly take it.
And why wouldn't you? Now, of course, we had the caution at the very end. Did you know that that was going to be the end of the race when that caution came out, or were you worried that we were going to have a one-lap shootout?
I was certainly worried about the one lap shootout, no doubt. I felt pretty confident that was it, but there's always that doubt in your head, and I'm a little superstitious, so people were congratulating me and saying stuff over in race chat, and I didn't want to say anything until I saw that white flag.
Kind of don't blame you. Of course, this is the opener to the series. This is a good way to start things. So, do you look forward, or is this the Nico Rosberg method? You just take this a race at a time.
Well, a little bit of both, I guess. I mean, it's a great start to the season for sure. And hopefully can just keep this momentum going. I don't expect to win like this every week for sure. But if I can at least finish in top 5, even top 10s consistently, that'll be good, and hopefully I can make a run at the championship this year.
Well, here's hoping we'll get to talk to you more. Who gets it done for you before we let you go?
Well, I'll thank my wife for letting me have the time to race and say hi to my kids, and also Adrenaline Motorsports. It's the team we got. Put in a victory lane for you guys.
Awesome stuff. That was our winner, Chris Stouffer. Up next, second place, Dan Guerin, ready to talk to Christian Challoner.
Dan, looked like you had a pretty good race strategy there, able to break away from that group to hold on to that second position after that first stop. Obviously had a little bit of an incident on that second stop, but didn't look like it hurt you too badly. Do you want to talk us through your race?
Oh, you caught that, huh?
Yeah, unfortunately we did.
Yeah, I didn't have the best qualifying. I nicked the wall in 3 and 4 there in the first lap, trying to get some speed up on that high side, and just didn't carry that momentum down the rest of the way. So I started like 10th or 11th or something like that. And I like the track. I know how the track runs, especially with the Indycars. So I just held my time and ran the high side, kept my tires under me for a while, then just started passing guys up there. And next thing you know, I'm sitting in third, just kind of riding along. First pit stop went great. I was a little hesitant about the pit in. I didn't have enough practice time for those. But came in pretty good, gained 2 seconds on Chris there, which congrats there, Chris. And so that alone vaulted me up ahead of the guys I was already racing with, so I had a nice cushion on them, just trying to catch Chris there. But again, you guys seen what I did on that next stop, and so thanks, Sean. But you should know that by now that something's going to happen with me here in the pits. But yeah, I was in chat there with Chris and told him like, hey, well, you pretty much got this wrapped up. I'm just going to ride along here. Ain't no way I'm going to catch you. So.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, you definitely weren't the only driver that we saw having some issues coming on a pit road. And at that exact same point as well, looked like we had a couple of guys really struggle to get the car stopped for the cone. And you definitely didn't end up in the worst scenario. We had a couple of drivers completely loop it and catch the wall. So a good recovery for sure. And you've got to be happy with that second spot, like you said, starting from 11th. You mentioned a little bit about the passing, and it was something that we noticed. It was very, very difficult to get a pass going on the bottom. Can you talk us through a little bit about how you would set up a pass if you actually had to make one?
I don't know if I want to give away trade secrets or not here, but no, I mean, I during the practice here before the race, I just noticed that it was definitely going to be difficult to pass on the low side. And I've ran this track for several years now, and I've always liked it. It's just never been good to me. Well, I'm a high side guy. I always love the high side. I'm a dirt guy. Give me that freaking berm up there, and I will be good to go. And with these cars here, just keep that momentum up. So I just put her in sixth, kept it there, kept going, and just if I could get my nose to the high side, then I know that I'd have them come off the next turn.
Well, it definitely looked like it worked out for you tonight. And once again, congrats on the second place finish. And before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to thank?
Oh, of course. Scott Bolster, great guy. I'm happy to be a part of the league here with him. Happy to sponsor the qualifying championship, D2 Race Products, D2 Race Designs, and just thank you guys and thank everybody.
Well, thank you for coming and chatting with us, and good luck for the next race, which I believe is at Auto Club.
Sounds good.
That was Dan Guerin, second place finisher. And up next on the Rogue Energy Post Race Show is going to be Kieran Brugeli, third place, and he had to fight for it. Kieran, you and Greg West gave us a lot of action there at the end.
Yeah, man, I fought with him all race long. I mean, I boogered up my first pit stop. I overshot the box, and I ended up getting bottled up behind him coming off pit road. But I was surprised there that everyone stayed. It's a really tight field, very competitive. Everyone stayed really close, even through the green flag pit stops. And at the end there, it was really all about just trying to beat the fence down in 1 and 2 and hit the apex in 3 and 4 and hopefully not let him get a nose down there.
With this being a fixed setup, obviously you just kind of have to deal with things as they come. But the temperature went down probably a good 15, 16 degrees over the course of the race. Did you notice that, or did the car handle pretty consistent?
Yeah, I was watching that. The track freed up quite a bit as the race went on, and the track temperature went away. The fast line in 3 and 4 moved down. 1 and 2, it shifted a little bit, but not so much. I mean, I don't know what the leader was running or what he was doing different, but congrats to Chris, man. He was I didn't have anything for that guy. He was in a league of his own. He was pulling me by a tenth or two just about every lap until the end there. It kind of leveled out.
Well, obviously, this was a very quick oval, but we're going to notch it up another factor when we go to Auto Club in 2 weeks. Do you consider that a good one for you, or are you not looking forward to what is, I guess, the plate racing version for Indycars?
I'm hoping it's not too much of a plate race, but I know that these things don't really they don't. There's not much of a double draft that goes on, and you can't really get away from guys. So we're probably gonna be stuck together like a bunch of people, like big pack of cars all race long. I like Auto Club. It's a home track for me. It's always been good to me, and I'd like to park it. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens as well as the number 98, Kieran Brugeli, took third place here. And one last driver that we're going to talk to is just behind fourth place. Paul Jenkins with the top 5. Christian is going to ask him how his race went.
Paul, a good run tonight, coming home in 5th after starting on the pole. Looked like it was a little bit of a struggle out there, especially in the battles. There was a couple of times where it looked like you got stuck on the bottom of the track and it was really hard to make progress. Obviously, still got the pole though and finished in the top 5. Talk us through your race.
Yeah, I got steamrolled, that's for sure. I chose poorly, and kind of got stuck on the bottom there, and that was pretty much it. I got steamrolled towards the early part of the race, and once you get back there, I think Dan was talking about this. Passing is really and Greg too. Passing is really kind of a thing around here. You really have to be very careful to set it up, and really, honestly, the best way to do it is to pin somebody under you, but in order to do that, you got to get next to them, and well, that wasn't happening very well. So, I can't complain. Solid race. I'll take a 5th in this place. This is not my favorite track. I am not the best here. I can't really legitimately explain to you how I managed to get a pole, but hey, I'll take it.
Yeah, it definitely looked like it was difficult. Like you say, obviously being on the bottom, you had a lot of cars on the top side that when they were all formed up, it was really difficult to get back in line. And at the end, you executed the strategy well, though, and still came home with the top 5. So got to be relatively happy with that. Now, heading into the next race, Auto Club, you said that this track here, Homestead, wasn't perhaps your favorite. Any thoughts on next race?
Well, it remains to be seen what the setup does. This car, it's not as prominent of a draft as you would get in, say, like the IR18. This older car doesn't have as much of a prominent draft, so it's going to be very interesting to see how much of a pack race it really is. I think we're going to be looking at some really good racing. I think Scott's got a good setup for this car for that track, and I'm really looking forward to it. But I think it's just going to be it's definitely going to be another strategy race. Passing is not going to be terribly easy, but I think we're really going to be in for a good show.
Well, we'll definitely be looking forward to that one. And before we let you go here, is there anybody that you'd like to thank for tonight?
Well, as Chris had mentioned, I gotta thank my wife for giving me the opportunity to do this. This takes time away from family, and so it's kind of a big deal. I gotta give a shout out to my old crew at AeroX and Banshee Motorsports, and of course my new team, Skidmark Racing. Scott does a great job here. Really proud to be in this league. I heard about it a couple of years ago, and or last year rather. Brian had run it, and so convinced me to come over and give it a shot. I'm really glad I did. And of course, thanks to you guys for the great broadcast. I also do the Lionheart Racing, and you guys do a top-notch thing there. So excellent work.
Well, thank you for coming and chatting with us tonight, Paul, and good luck for the next race at Auto Club.
All right, we'll see you there, guys. Thanks a lot.
That was our 5th place finisher, Paul Jenkins. Satisfied, I guess, even though not the best result, but a pole to 5th is decent enough. And that's going to close us out with a big thank you to our sponsors once again. Big mention to Midwest Simulations. Their promo code is Throwback once again if you want to check them out. D2 Race Designs, and of course, Rogue Energy as well. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast. You can see them listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Christian, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check us out on social media. Our Twitter is @GSR Channel, Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support the channel, go check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storeenvy.com. And we've got that link in the description below if you need. Make sure and subscribe to our channel as well. Just scroll down and click on the big red button that says subscribe. As we mentioned, 2 weeks from now, we'll be at Auto Club out to California, the other coast. That'll be Thursday, February 27th at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.